Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Itepe so bhagava araham samma sambuddho vijjacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhamma sarati sattha deva manussanam buddho bhagavati. Friends and children in the Dhamma, welcome for the first Dhamma talk on the series of Dhamma talks and the pujas and the chanting that we are going to perform on Saturdays and Sundays during this rains retreat or the Vasana season. So we initiate our series of all these meritorious deeds today. So the first ever talk and the puja is being sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Ramya and Parvis. Their expectations are especially to dedicate all these merits for those departed dear ones. Mrs. Ramya aspired to dedicate all these merits to her parents, mother and father, and also to elder brothers and elder sisters, especially to Mr. Janaka and Mr. Anand. Mr. Parvis hopes to dedicate all these merits to mother and father and also to the elder sisters. These Mr. and Mrs. Ramya and Parvis are long-time devotees of this New Jersey Buddhist Vihara. They were participating, supporting and donating, all this while for the progress, for the well-being of this Vihara and the Sangha. Even today they offered requisites for the resident monks and they sponsored this Dhamma talk. On top of all that, with those expectations of dedicating these merits to those departed parents of both of them and also all those elder brothers and elder sisters. We wish by the power of these merits, both Mrs. Ramya and Mr. Parvis be enabled in this life to be successful, whatever aspirations, whatever goals that they are keeping in their minds, and to live this life peacefully, happily and blissfully. May these merits be a supportive factor for them. And ultimately, may this sharing Dhamma with the others. Now, since we are broadcasting this, via these Facebook and the YouTube, these social medias. Not only today, since these Dhamma talks will be remaining in the Facebook as well as in the YouTube, even in the future, people who are interested in learning Dhamma, they will learn, they will listen to this Dhamma. And this sharing of the Dhamma with thousands of people is creating such a great merit for those who are sponsoring of this sharing. Yeah. So with that, let's start the Dhamma talk. Now today we are continuing where we stopped 2 weeks back in our last Dhamma talk. We were explaining the 9 epithets encrypted in the stanza that we chanted just a while ago. Itipiso Bhagava Arahan Samma Sambuddha. So we have been explaining these epithets of the Buddha, and we have explained so far about 7 epithets. Today, our plan is, our aspiration is to explain the 8th epithet of the Buddha. It is none other than the Buddha itself, the Buddho. Now, just for a reminding, for those listeners who have been listening these talks for this while, that these epithets are not given to Buddha by his parents, by the divine beings, or by somebody else. These epithets originated in the people who happened to witness the Buddha, who happened to see the Buddha. In their minds, the impression of the Buddha was capable of creating certain terms about the Buddha. So based on those impressions created in the follower's heart, these epithets sprang out, came up. Somebody started calling Buddha is Arahant. Somebody started calling Buddha is Anuttaro Purisa Dhamma Sarathi. Somebody called him Buddha is Sugato. Somebody else said Buddha is Lokavidu. So all these epithets later on, they were collected together and it was used. These collected 9 epithets were used by those people to introduce the Buddha to others. Even when the Buddha's out of the city or out of the town, even in his absence, people introduced Buddha using these 9 epithets. And these 9 epithets represent his infinite virtues, infinite great qualities within the Buddha. So we are explaining one by one of these epithets for our clear understanding about the virtues of the Buddha as well as the Dhamma of the Buddha. So today, the epithet that we are supposed to explain to you is Buddho. Now, Buddho is translated, it means the enlightened one, the enlightened one. But of course, there are other translations for this Buddho. that we can take Buddha as the one who is awakened, the awakened one. Personally, I prefer this term better than the enlightened one. It gives such an inspiration. Buddha is the awakened one. We are asleep. We are asleep in our defilements. Absorbed in our defilements, we are fast asleep. Buddha is awakened. And once he was awakened, all his concern was to help others to become enlightened, to become awakened. Now he is awakened. He could see the rest of the world is fast asleep. Fast asleep in their defilements, in their cankers. And all what he wanted was to help them, to support them, somehow to awaken them. Now with that, let's try to explain this term. Now, it says Buddha is a comparison of a lotus flower. A lotus and the Buddha is just the same. A lotus is born in the mud, grown up in the mud, but lives, bloomed, emanating fragrance without touching the mud, and even concealing the stinking smell of the mud. The fragrance of the lotus is emanating. We cannot even imagine. The roots of the lotus is in the mud. Buddha is just the same. Born to a parents, just like us, and he lives in the world, just like any other human being. He survives on the same food that any other human being eats. He got old just like any other human being. He got sick. He got weakened with the age. And ultimately he had to depart from this physical body. Everything is just like any other being. But though he is in the world, he is not of the world. What we are having within us, the defiled mind, is absent in the Buddha. He is not of the world. He may be in the world, but not of the world. So Buddha and the lotus flower is just the same. Living in the world, but without touching the world. Living in the water, but without touching the water. They are just the same. Once a Brahmin called Drona, he happened to see the appearance of the Buddha and he was so impressed. And he couldn't understand whether this is a man, a divine being, or whatever type of being he knew cannot be applied to this presence of the Buddha. So he asked the Buddha in his great puzzling state of mind. He asked, "Are you a man?" Buddha says, "No, I'm sorry, I'm not a man." "Are you a divine being?" "No, you cannot say I'm a divine being." "Are you a demigod?" a Gandharva. Some says divine musician. Are you a Gandharva, a demigod? Buddha says, no, I'm not Gandharva. I'm neither a man, nor a divine being, nor a Gandharva. Then please tell me, who are you? Buddha says, I am a Buddha. I am the enlightenment. I am the awakening. No other term is applicable to me. You can call me the enlightenment, the Buddha. That's all. So once he was out of those defiled state of mind, though he is in the human form, he is out of that human weaknesses, human inclinations, human defilements. Now he is out of all the bondages of humanity. How can we call him a human? In the Buddha's state of mind, he is just a Buddha himself. That's all. So Buddha is the foremost or the most utilized form to help or to assist him to explain who he really is. Now, in the text where they explain the Buddha's virtues, that we can find Buddha is explained as he is called Buddha because he is self-awakened. His awakening, his enlightenment is a self-earned one. Nobody taught him. Nobody guided him to become enlightened. He himself found it. For 6 years after his renunciation, in search of an enlightened master to learn the method of becoming enlightened, he was failed. He couldn't find a teacher to tell him how to find the final liberation from suffering. Then he moved into the practice of Atta Kilamatanu Yoga, the extreme self-tormentation, and he practiced to the extreme level of that tormenting, but still he found that he is not liberated. Then by himself moved into a practice, moved into a path which no one has ever tried. That path is called the middle path. And he ethically observing, ethically following this middle path, he applied the technique of meditation called Vipassana, the insight meditation. And the usage of this insight meditation was such, it helps to asavakkaya jnana, to gain this knowledge or wisdom called the destruction of cankers. And with that, he got enlightened. But remember, this is something he found by his own wisdom. Being a genius himself, he found this. Today, it is so easy to explain because it is very clearly depicted in the suttas, in the teachings of the Buddha. So we find it very easy. But remember, Buddha had to find it himself. He had to discover it or rediscover it. Now, there is a sutta called Nagara Sutta. And then in this Nagara Sutta, Lord Buddha explains the rediscovery of the path and the rediscovery of the liberation of the nirvana. He says, a man who was walking in a densely forest, in a dense forest, and he happened to go into an ancient city which was lost in that forest. The city was there, the path was there, but with the time, since the people gave up going to that city, gave up reaching that city using that path, and that path is being covered with the trees, bushes, with the jungle. It was already there. It was lost because the jungle covered it up, obstructed it, hid it from the vision. And this wise man could find the path to go to that city, and he reached that city. Now, finding this path again is discovering the middle path again. It was lost from the usage. It was lost from the knowledge of the people. It was gone. But it was a path those former Buddhas used. Those former Buddhas used to walk on that path. With the time, it has been vanished. It is gone. Now Bodhisattva Gautam Siddhartha, he found that path again. By walking on that path, he reached to that city, he reached to nirvana. So his comparison is this Nagara Sutta, that the path and the city to his middle path and to nirvana. And he says this is a rediscovery. This is not something he produced. This is not something he created. Former Buddhas had already walked on that path, and thousands of people have walked on that path, but it was just hidden, forgotten with the time, and he had to find it again. So it is a rediscovery. So because this rediscovery is done by this Siddhartha Gautama, the Bodhisattva, he is called the Buddha. The Buddha. He was self-awakened, self-enlightened by following this path to the nirvana. Now, there is this question. If you happen to remember my previous talks, the Samma Sambuddha, the perfectly enlightened Buddha, bears the similar meaning, that he also self-awakened. And now Buddha also gives the same meaning, that he is self-awakened. It seems redundant, repeating. In the same stanza, two epithets given to explain the same meaning. But actually, when we look deeper, especially based on the Visuddhimagga, the path of purification, it explains the term Buddha has different meanings other than the meanings given for Samma Sambuddha. The other meaning or the explanation for the Buddha is that after the discovery of the path and the fruition at which he attained through that path, middle path and the Nibbana, the Buddha was helping others, assisting others to bodhitar, to awake others. Once he was awakened, all his intention, all his aspiration was to help as much as possible to be awakened. Since his effort for awakening others, teaching for awakening others, he is called the Buddha. So he was enlightened, therefore he is called Buddha. After the enlightenment, he worked hard. He put all his effort to awake others. Because of these two qualities, we call Gautama Siddhartha the Bodhisattva. With his enlightenment, he is the Buddha. He contained these two qualities of getting enlightened and driving others to the enlightenment. It was his effort. All types of people, all kinds of people. It doesn't matter that particular person belonged to which nationality, which caste, which language he speaks. It doesn't matter for the Buddha. What matters is that particular person is capable of getting enlightened, capable of awakening. This awakening has no nationality, no caste, no language. It is just awakening itself. Nationality, caste, language, appearance, all limited to the skin level, on to the periphery. They don't go deep into your inner being, inner consciousness. So the periphery doesn't matter to the Buddha. It says he spent for himself to rest only 2 hours a day. Only 2 hours he just rest. Rest of the 22 hours a day, rest of his whole day is sacrificed for others, humanity, divinity, to whomsoever that he can be an assistance, a help to awake. Buddha is there. It says early morning when he wake up after the resting of 2 hours. When he get up, he sit down, and through his mind eye, he observe the world. He look for somebody. Who is this somebody? Somebody who is capable of getting enlightened. Now if we say somebody is helping, that help he does through whatever he has. You cannot help anyone if you don't have something within you. If you don't have something with you, how can you help anyone? If you have money, you can help another with your money. If you have power, you can help somebody with your power. But Buddha's help is completely different. His help is to awake you, is to make you aware of your own suffering states and to help you to get out of that suffering state. To help you to be aware of your own defilements and to get rid of them. help you to get out of this cycle of birth and death. That is the Buddha's help. He is not helping anybody with money, with power, with prestige. Buddha has no intention of helping anybody with those areas. So the persons who are bearing the infinity towards the enlightenment are bound to be caught in the net of compassion of the Buddha. Early morning, he searched for such an individual or group of individuals who are capable of getting enlightened, or at least to take some steps on the path towards enlightenment. That is his search. And after that, it doesn't matter that person is in the neighborhood. It doesn't matter that person is in a faraway place. Buddha would walk there. And sometimes even he will go many a times to change his mind little by little and to bring him to the path of the Dhamma. Once there was this Brahmin who happened to be a farmer, and he was having this strong wrong view against the Buddha. That wrong view is something he cultivated in that life as a Brahmin, but Buddha saw this Brahmin has the seeds of enlightenment within him. But in this present life, he has cultivated some animosity, some hatred towards the Buddha. Because Brahmin's teachings are completely contrasting, going against the Buddha's teaching. So naturally there is some animosity. And this Brahmin had created such a strong animosity against the Buddha. So Buddha has to work hard then. Since this is a farmer, this Brahmin was about to till his ground to begin his cultivation, and Buddha visited him. When he saw the Buddha, he just ignored the Buddha. But Buddha approached to him and talked to him first. What are you doing, Brahmin? Of course, Brahmin just replied with an indifference attitude, without taking care, without caring much. Then again Buddha visited him while he was planting the seeds or sowing the seeds. Again the Brahmin was not so cordial, not so pleasant to the Buddha. But Buddha never stopped. He again and again visited this Brahmin. And by, as the paddy was growing, in the heart of the Brahmin, there was some kind of friendship growing up towards the Buddha. And when the harvesting of the paddy is getting near, when the Buddha visited, Brahmin said, "My friend, harvesting is nearby. I'm not going to eat all this rice alone. I want to share some of this rice with you. I want to share some of this paddy with you." Buddha didn't say anything, but he knew this Brahmin is not going to harvest. He will not be able to harvest this paddy. It so happened, the night just before the harvesting, there was a torrent of raining, and all the paddy was destroyed, washed away with that rainwater. And this Brahmin was so depressed, so unhappy, so sad. He doesn't want to eat anything. He's just lying down in that depressed, stressed, unhappy mood. And Buddha visited him. When the Buddha visited him, the wife said, "My husband is just lying down. He doesn't want even to come out." Then Buddha reached him, went to his bed, sat down nearby, and asked him, "What happened?" Then the Brahmin explained how he is sad about this disaster. Then the Buddha said, "Do you know the cause behind this? Why you are sad now? Why you are suffering now? Do you know the cause? Do you know the reason for this?" "The reason I know. I know why you are suffering. You are not suffering because of the destruction of the paddy. It is a natural phenomenon. Naturally, it is bound to happen. If the rain happens in such a ferocious level, these are natural impacts. It is not because of the destruction of the paddy you are suffering. It is because of your craving. Tanhaya jayati soko, tanhaya jayati bhayam, tanhaya vipamuttasya, natti soko kuto bhayam. Because of craving, fear arises. Because of craving, sadness arises. If you get rid of this craving, where can you find any fear or sadness? And Buddha could open the eyes of the Brahmin to the truth. He became one of the devout followers of the Buddha, and also he attained to the stages of sainthood. Now this is the Buddha's effort. No, there is any kind of personal benefit. It is to help others. Others, in the sense, those who are capable of grasping what the Buddha teaches, those who have been cultivating the parami, the affinity for this Dhamma in their past lives. When they meet the Buddha, of course, since they themselves do not know that they are capable of getting enlightened, capable of getting into the stages of Nibbana, they do not know, but Buddha knows. Buddha knows there are seeds of enlightenment within this person. He is just fast asleep. He cannot know that he is a Buddha. He is just sleeping. So Buddha will wake up little by little. Wake up him to the truth. This is the Buddha's aspiration. His function as the Buddha for 45 years. Now they are all being recorded. His immediate disciples remembered whatever the Buddha taught in those diverse circumstances to diverse audience. Whatever the Buddha taught, remembered by those immediate disciples, and later on they were written down, and we have those written down Buddha's words available to us. We have with us. And if somebody is in the inclination of practicing this Dhamma, just as the Buddha said, and get the benefit out of it, it is available today. And even today, there are people who get the benefit out of it, who find happiness in their lives, who find peace in their lives by following this Dhamma. Yeah. So even today, Buddha as a teacher continues, since the Dhamma is continuing. Dhamma is still very much alive among us. Buddha is alive, and he is still transforming lives in the world. Buddha as a teacher still continues. Now, Buddha as a teacher was the most difficult task in the world. Now, teachers know how difficult to make the students understanding on the subject areas that they teach. How difficult it is. How much effort they have to put into the teaching, put into their teaching methods to make the students somehow understand the subject area. How difficult. They are just worldly, secular subject areas. Now, can you imagine? The Buddha's subject area is beyond the world, away from the world. What kind of effort he must have put in to drive somebody from the secular level to the supramundane level, from the worldly level to the beyond. Only a perfectly enlightened Buddha, who has all the utensils within, could do that. So what are these utensils that the Buddha carried with him, or Buddha had developed within him to help others? Now there are 14 types of knowledges are related to this Buddha term. Now in the traditional Buddhist countries, people are aware, people are acknowledged about these 14 types of wisdom. Right? During the pujas, they chant this. Dukkhe jnanam buddha jnanam dukkha samudaye jnanam buddha jnanam dukkha nirodhe jnanam buddha jnanam dukkha nirodha gamini patipadaya jnanam buddha jnanam attapati sambide jnanam buddha jnanam dhamma pati sambide jnanam buddha jnanam nirutti pati sambide jnanam buddha jnanam patibhana pati sambide jnanam buddha jnanam indriya paro pariyattiye jnanam buddha jnanam asayanusaye jnanam buddha jnanam yamaka patihariye jnanam buddha jnanam mahakaruna samapattiya jnanam buddha jnanam sabbanyuta jnanam buddha jnanam anavarana jnanam buddha jnanam. Now these 14 types of knowledges are divided into two categories, as the category of knowledges limited for the Samma Sambuddha, limited for the Buddha the perfect, and the category of knowledges common to the student Buddhas or Shravaka Buddhas or Arahants as well. The first 8 types of knowledges: the knowledge on the suffering, dukkha jnana, knowledge on the cause of suffering, dukkha samudaya jnana, knowledge on the destruction of the cause of suffering, dukkha nirodha jnana, knowledge on the path towards the destruction of cause of suffering, dukkha nirodha gamini patipada. Now, 4 noble truths, as I mentioned earlier, that is in the talks I mentioned, this is the foundation of Buddhism. This is the pinnacle of Buddhism. This is where Buddhism begins. This is where Buddhism ends. We learn 4 noble truths as a borrowed knowledge. We gain it, and with our practice we realize upon it the same 4 noble truths. No one can get enlightened unless he realizes these 4 noble truths, either by himself or by following another enlightened master. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about these 4 noble truths much. Yeah, basically all the Buddhists are aware of these 4 truths. The second group of 4 knowledges are Atta Patisambhida, Dhamma Patisambhida, Nirutti Patisambhida, Patibhana Patisambhida. There is a detailed explanation on these 4 types of knowledges. In short, without these 4 types of knowledges, that you cannot make somebody else understand the Dhamma properly. Yeah. Atta Patisambhida is, now Patisambhida knowledge is to know with details. Just the knowledge and the knowledge with details. When you look at a tree, to understand or to know that it is a tree is just the knowledge. The detailed knowledge is to know the parts and sections and the values of those parts of the tree. That is the detailed knowledge. Patisambhida jnana is the detailed knowledge. Atta Patisambhida is the effects. Based on the causes, the effects arise. Atta Patisambhida is to understand with the details about those effects. These are effects of causes. Now there are 3 types of causes. Janaka Hetu. Janaka Hetu is, Janaka means to arise, to appear out of nowhere. How does this appear? Out of nowhere, like the trees. When the winter is over, out of nowhere, within a week, they sprout those beautiful leaves. Out of nowhere. Now, even us came to this world out of nowhere. This is a great puzzle, a great question that the human mind is always wondering about. Even today, it is there. We cannot come to a conclusion from where did we come. Yeah? That is why in the olden days, during the Buddha's time as well as today, people have these 2 extreme conclusions about the appearing of these sentient beings as well as sentient things in the world. They say, Issara Nimmana Hetu, somebody created. Yeah, the theory of creations. And somebody else says, no, it is not somebody created, it just appeared there. It is an accidental occurrence. Yeah. So as an accidental occurring, as a creation, the genesis of the world, people tried to explain. But Buddha, going beyond both this extreme level of understanding of the genesis of the world, Buddha says it is due to cause and effect, due to causality, theory of dependent origination. Now, cause and effect. So, Janaka Hetu is to understand the causes behind this life, the karma, the defilements, the bondages that we have within ourselves are generating this life to move on to a new life somewhere. Yeah. The bondages that we were generating in our past lives created this life. We are still in the bondage, and it means that we are going to have a new life after this life. So understanding this Janaka Hetu, cause and effect. The effect of this life is nothing but the causes of our past lives. Yeah, whatever we are experiencing today, the creator of those experiences that we are having today by ourselves in some other body, some other physical body, in some other life. Yeah. The relativity, the relationship between this cause and effect. The second cause or the second reason is sampapaka hetu. Yeah. This is what is going against the rebirth process. Sampapaka hetu means like a ship carrying somebody to the other shore. If a cause is there carrying someone to liberation, that is sampapaka hetu. The cause which carries somebody to liberation is the eightfold noble path. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, etc. The eightfold noble path or the middle path. Sampapaka hetu carries someone with that cultivation of the middle path. As the pinnacle of that cultivation, he is being carried to the liberation. The third cause is Njbv hetu, which indicates like the fire is being indicated by the smoke. When the smoke is there, it is an indication the fire is there. Likewise, the Dhamma indicates the truth. Dhamma functions like the smoke which indicates fire. Dhamma indicates the truth, the reality, which we are not ready to observe, become obvious and understandable. Yeah, become understanding of it. We are not ready for it, but Dhamma indicates the existence of the truth. So these triple types of causes are there. These triple types of causes produce something or create something. The Janaka Hetu, that is the inbred defilements within us, create something called the re-existence or rebirth. Right? When you understand the rebirth, or when you understand the life itself, it is a byproduct of the inbred defilements, cultivated defilements within. And when somebody understands Nibbana, it is something conveyed by following the middle path. Yeah. And when somebody understands the truth, it is somebody indicated via the Dhamma. Yeah. So when you understand the effect, you understand the cause. So in this Atta Patisambhida is to understand the effect of the nature. Then comes the Dhamma Patisambhida. It is to understand those causes which I mentioned here as Janaka Hetu, Sampapaka Hetu, Jnapaka Hetu. Janaka Hetu is the cause which regenerate this life after this life, which regenerate as new life. It is Janaka Hetu. And then Sampapaka Hetu, which conveys somebody to somewhere. Here in this case, which conveys somebody to enlightenment. Middle path functions as the Sampapaka Hetu, in the sense of conveying, bringing someone to Nibbana. Then comes the Jnapaka Hetu, which gives the signs of existence, which indicates something else is existing there. That is Jnapaka Hetu. Yeah. So these triple types of causes, to understand as they are, is the Dhamma Patisambhida. Patisambhida is the detailed knowledge. Dhamma Patisambhida is the detailed knowledge on the causes. Then comes the Nirutti Patisambhida. It is to understand the language that the Buddhas talk. Today, most of the people just read the translations of the Buddha's teachings. I do not personally think it is so understandable, the authentic Buddha's teachings, through the translations. Translations are very good because not that everybody can sacrifice or study the original words, original language of the Buddha, which we called Pali. Yeah. So translations are all right, but we have to remember they are the translations of somebody else. In the process of their translating, many things must have missed because of the cultural and the language. Yeah. All those barriers, because of those barriers of cultural and language, some of those translations must have gone missing. So the authentic understanding of the Buddha's words happen through the understanding of the language that the Buddha talked. That is the Nirutti Patisambhida. And learning those triple types of Atta Patisambhida, the results, Dhamma Patisambhida, the causes of those results, and Nirutti Patisambhida, the language, the meaning of the Buddha's words, helps somebody to teach others Dhamma, helps somebody to explain this Dhamma to somebody else. Yeah. In that sense, it is said Patibhana Patisambhida. So these are the 4 types of knowledge in regarding the cause and effect and the meaning of the Buddha's words and the teaching of the Buddha's words. Now, these 8 types of knowledge are common even with the student Buddhas. Buddha's students, some of them, they had this capability of teaching the Dhamma very fluently, very clearly to others, because they had these 4 types of knowledge: Atta Patisambhida, Dhamma Patisambhida, Nirutti Patisambhida, and Patibhana Patisambhida. Detailed knowledge on the effects, causes, and the meanings, and with the usage of similes, they could explain this Dhamma to others. Then comes the section where the knowledge was limited to the Buddha himself, only for the Buddha. They are the knowledge of Indriya Paro Pariyattinyana, understanding the faculties within the audience that the Buddha is going to talk. What are these faculties? Usually in Buddhism, Indriya are nothing but the 5 senses: eye, ear, nose, tongue, and the body. But here it is different types of indriyas. They are the saddha, confidence; virya, effort; sati, awareness; samadhi, concentration; and panya, wisdom. Each and every one of us are having these kinds of 5 powers within us. Each and every one of us, we have those saddha, virya, sati, samadhi, panya. We have them, but in a different levels, with different degrees. Buddha has the capability to understand the level of 5 faculties of the audience, and he can help them to grow up those 5 faculties until they become 5 strengths, pancha bala. Pancha indriya turn into pancha bala with the Buddha's teaching. Pancha indriya, saddha, virya, sati, samadhi, panya. Saddha, confidence; virya, effort; sati, mindfulness; samadhi, concentration; and wisdom. And these faculties become powers. Pancha indriya become pancha bala: saddha, virya, sati, samadhi, panya. And once they become powers, they can dominate over the defilements, and then those defilements are destroyed. They become enlightened. So Buddha understands the power of the faculties of those disciples, of those students, very clearly. He understood these 5 faculties with his ability of knowing them very clearly. Yeah, that knowing of the 5 indriyas or 5 faculties are called Indriya Paro Pariyattinyana. So with this, we will conclude this Dhamma talk. Today we were planning to explain the meaning of the Buddha. Yeah. Now there are 14 types of knowledges based on this meaning. If I am going to give these names for the sake of remembering: knowledge on the 4 Noble Truths, knowledge on the detailed knowledge of Artha, effect; Dhamma, causes; Nirutti, meaning; and Patibhana, ability of using these 3. Then comes the Indriya Paro Pariyattinyana, ability to understand the 5 faculties: saddha, virya, sati, samadhi, panya. Then comes the Asayanusenya, ability to understand the dominance of the asavas, of the defilements, of the inclinations in the audience. Then Yamaka Patiharinyana, ability to perform the twin miracles, emanating water and fire. Water from the lower part of the body, fire from the upper part of the body at the same time. That is twin miracles, Yamaka Patiharinyana. Mahakaruna Samapattinyana, to attain to the absorption called the great compassion. Sabbanyutanyana, that is omniscient knowledge. Anavaranyana, revealing knowledge. These are the 14 types of knowledges that the Buddha contained within him, that made him the master perfect. Master perfect in the sense that he could guide without any mistake whomsoever is worthy of attaining to the enlightenment. Buddha could guide him directly to that enlightenment. Hence, Buddha is the master perfect. So we call him Buddha. So with that, we conclude this talk. Today, this Dhamma talk was sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Ramya and Purvis. As I mentioned earlier, their aspirations are to dedicate all these merits to their departed, both of their parents, elder brothers, elder sisters, especially Mr. Janaka, Mr. Ananda. Now, let's dedicate all these merits that we have accumulated within us by hearing this Dhamma, by sharing this Dhamma, whatever meritorious power that we have generated within us. May these merits be dedicated to all those departed ones, including their parents, to Mr. Janaka and also Mr. Anand. May all these departed ones of Mr. and Mrs. Ramya and Purvis, wherever they are, however they are, those departed ones be rejoiced with these merits. May their present existences become blissful, happy and peaceful. May they be enabled to move on to a better life, better existence out of suffering. May all those departed ones be rejoiced with these merits. Idam me jnatinam hotu Sukhita huntu jnatayo. Idam me jnatinam hotu Sukhita huntu jnatayo. Idam me jnatinam hotu Sukhita huntu jnatayo. Blessings for you. Sabbityo vivajjantu sabbarogo vinassatu mate bhavatu antarayo sukhi digayuko bhava. A quick announcement that we are continuing this program throughout the Rains Retreat until our Katina ceremony. Now, many of the days, Saturdays and Sundays, there are people who are, there are devotees who are sponsoring those Dhamma talks and the puja. So you have the opportunity. Still, there are some slots. Some of those days still vacant. So you can sponsor. You can come and participate. You can join with us and generate these meritorious thoughts within you by participating with these meritorious events. Okay, with that, thank you very much. Good night.